Today we're down in Suita Osaka, Neko Nation, Japan, and we're visiting the Dagashi Idol Festival. These Dagashi idols, if you will, are just starting out in their career. They're a group of 13-year-old girls starting their lifelong obsession.
Dagashi Festival eating Dagashi Idol.
1000円以上お買い上げの方にレシートを見せていただいて、駄菓子の詰め合わせをプレゼントしてます。皆さんぜひ来てください。
I got all kinds of tasty treats from the Dagashi Idol Festival. On the Dagashi Idol, I have to try that again just to punish myself a little bit. Bye bye.
In Japan, J-pop or J-popu, or pops or papu, was mainstream in the early 90s, but it has its original roots with the Beatles and a lot of the early 60s rock bands. So J-pop kind of had its roots come out of the Beatles and Beach Boys. It then kind of fused through the mid-60s into 70s with a little electronic, and it's kind of kept those light-hearted tones and poppy beat from its rock roots. J-pop was inspired by a lot of early rock songs, such as the Rolling Stones, Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand, Rolling Stones, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, one of my personal favorites. Now, over time, it took away a lot of these rock roots and added distinctly Japanese flair, with a lot of idol groups of women parading around and doing synchronized dancing movements, but they like to keep the dances simple so that a lot of their fans and other people can sing and dance along. Eventually, J-pop replaced a lot of early Japanese historical lyrical type singing. So you had all of the people singing about songs and stories and just telling either everyday life or histories and historical. As you know, this channel is more dedicated to the business side of things. I'm looking in at the most successful idols in Japan. Now, it's not the particular idols that were successful, but it's the idol groups as a whole that become successful. has smaller idol festivals, but it's nonetheless interesting to see early idols in their development. Now, the most successful, or AKB48, the most successful idol company that has ever come out of Japan, has first started out with 48 members that quickly rose in the ranks, and they now have close to 400 members. It's a much more interesting business model than I've ever seen. Looking into the research about this, basically business model they have. So, one of the most successful Japanese idol groups in existence is AKB48. Now, they actually are named after the location they first started and are mainly based out of, is Akihabara. Located in an area in Tokyo, which is very famous for shopping and Japanese pop culture. This is in part because of AKB48. AKB48 is very unique in they have a structure of doing things, very unique, and kind of the first to do it this way, where they take the individuals who start out and they put them in a group, and they have a more pyramid structure where you have a lot of low-level idol groups. When you get more and more popular and more following, their followers are voted which girl they like best. You then move up in this pyramid structure to more and more featured. Now, your lower ranks group will be a lot of, the first and low level will be a lot of personal appearances, such as handshaking and signing autographs and getting to know their fan base when they're very beginning. While at the top of the pyramid is more large showing events. In their particular, they have a massive theater that can hold 70,000 people, and they have daily concerts at this place in Akihabara, and large venue and large amount of idol groups to feature at different days and different times of every day. So it has large turnover and a large able to come and see whatever particular idol or idol group they like to watch. This AKB48 is very popular and is shown on Sundays on network television here in Japan. Now, the AKB48 is more of a social phenomenon here in Japan. This group is one of the highest earning musical performers in Japan. In 2012, their sales reached $226 million. AKB48 has been such a phenomenon. As of June 2018, the group has sold over 56 million records. Now, CDs or cassettes, depending on the time period we're talking about. But almost all in Japan is actually CD based. They don't really have the iTunes and downloadable music as we do in America. It's strictly CDs, and everybody listens to CDs here still. It's kind of backwards that way. But in doing so, they actually, when you buy your CD, you get a ticket. Now that one ticket is a vote that you can sign and vote for whatever artist or idol that you like best. So then at the end of the year, they have a tally, and whoever gets the most amount of votes from that ticket then can move up in the ranking of the idol pyramid. They get higher and higher in rankings as they get more popular. You'll have more bands and appearances of that particular person or idol. Now, they have both men and women idol groups, but by far the women idol groups are much more popular within AKB48. Now, within AKB48, they've had millions of records sold, and they've been chart toppers on many years. They've had usually on, depending on which chart you're looking at, 7 out of the 10 top spots throughout the last 10 years. Now, How did they do this? Now, they had a very interesting concept when they first began. The AKB48 kind of set their premise on idols that the everyday person can go and meet. So when you have the very beginning idol at the bottom of your pyramid, you can go and meet these idols and shake hands and get to know them. You then get a personal relationship with this idol, and you eventually follow them, and the more people that follow them, the higher they go in the pyramid. This structure is vastly different from that of America. In America, you'll have a particular artist that work long hours and lots of time perfecting their craft. And we'll get to see them when they're just about at the top, when they're either really good musician, really good artists, or really good dancers, or the combination thereof. But with this structure, you get to start from the very beginning, which is a low-cost basis, and you gradually build a following throughout their entire career and allow them to develop as persons, idols, dancers, singers, and overall entertainers. This is very interesting. This interesting business model is also helped by the fact that this unit owns its own theater. Now, this theater holds approximately 70,000, according to the information I have. Now, they have their own theater. This theater is located in the Akihabara district in Tokyo, Japan. Now, they have their own theater inside a Don Quixote, which is a very popular store here in Japan. So you have a lot of foot traffic moving through and saying, what is this interesting thing here? They get to know and build relationships with their beginning idols. And then throughout the years, they get more and more fan base. Also, with building the fan base, they also have groups. They start, especially on the lowest rung of the pyramid, they have a large amount of groups, so they get to share the idol workload, if you will. Now, this workload is split in between the groups, so they have a performing group every day at this theater. It's not an occasional event that they go to, and they may be able to get to see this idol group perform once, maybe a year. They have weekly occurrences. They have their group, their idol group will perform very often, but they don't have to be overworked because they have a whole bunch of idol groups, so they can have time to perfect and hone their craft. Now, in perfecting the craft, they are also split into team types. They have Team A, which represents a lot of freedom. So freedom in music, freedom in expression. Next, they have Team B, which is your idol type, with cute costumes and regular dancing and a lot of cute themed music. Your last team is Team K. This team represents strong, powerful music and powerful individuals with strong impactful music. It's very interesting how each one of these members and groups take on these different types of personas. Also, within the groups, since there's so many idol groups, they can have time in order to host events, such as fan interaction events where they can have signing, shaking hands, taking pictures, all kinds of interesting things where you can build relationships with your fan base as well as each individual idol groups. These groups become very large. I think currently there's around 400 members of the AKB48 family. Now, they have constant additions between your early teens into your mid-20s, your age range, all of these idols usually are. Now, with constant additions, you have more and more talent coming into your talent base. And they're selected for how many fans they actually become. So the more fans you attract, the higher you get in that pyramid. Within a lot of idol groups, especially those of AKB48, is group style musical as well as dancing called a bubblegum pop. This bubblegum pop is more of a synchronized dancing as well as appealing to prepubescent teenage girls, 30-something male adults. Now, they have a lot of fans in cheerleading, basically sections. So every time you buy that CD, you get to vote for whatever group you'd like to see next, and promoting them as well as the individual idols they have in that group. Next, we have one of the most interesting and possibly beneficial marketing tactic AKB48 uses. AKB has a variety of marketing strategies. The single and album sales are all bundled together with different editions and types, alternate album covers, where you can use the same music but you change the album cover and make it more interesting for the consumer to buy and purchase. Now, they usually often include event tickets, voting slips, and all kinds of collectible memorabilia, which Japan is very known for. The cause and reason for collecting these slightly different variations on the memorabilia and CD covers has caused an inflation in the Japanese music industry, and it's caused a very particular large booming effect, becoming so popular among Japan. Almost every prefecture in Japan has its own idol groups to try to promote the particular area that they have. Now, to keep things interesting, in order to sell more albums and more CDs here in Japan, they have a constant roster of frequently changing idols in each particular group. So they change it up and to see what idols become more popular or what combination of idols really sync and resonate with an audience. Now, there's many teams, as I mentioned earlier, within AKB48's lineup, as well as some sister groups they constantly exchange with. Now, those groups are in charge of regularly working on their talent, making more and more products or media for this AKB48 company to then market. An interesting side effect of this particular AKB48 formula, a lot of people end up, why is there so many members of this group? How can you tell anybody apart? But if you start getting into it, you find the one individuals that resonate with you, then you start following that one. And then maybe they're part of an idol group that you start to like. So then you look at them and follow them. And it then kind of blossoms out from there. So when AKB48 first came onto the scene, a lot of their even Japanese audience or any audience that ended up seeing this is, how many people are there? Why is there so many idols? Now, these individual groups started to then, you look at one particular idol, you get to know them, and then you get to know their group they sing with, and it kind of exploded from there. Their first original opening, they had a total of 7 people show up. They went within 3 months, filled the venue to capacity of 250 people. And now they play in a stadium, or theater I suppose, that holds 70,000 people regularly. In Japan, they have enormous record sales. They have all kinds of products, meet and greet, and constant sales. So, particular highlights of the AKB48 formula, which has been since copied in many nations, and here in Japan, not quite as successfully as the one that did it first. But you have a constant add value product to your individual CDs and general use products. They always add tickets to shows and seasons. They add collector's memorabilia to each particular CD album, and allows to add more benefit than just the individual CDs, which you can download if you wanted to. But you don't get those little collector's items that you get with buying the CD. So it keeps those particular customers coming back for more, and not just going and downloading them off the internet like we do in America. We always go to our iTunes, we get the music, and that's it. This is compared to America, which has 32% sales in the CD, where here in Japan we have 52% sales of the total market come from the sales of the individual CD, with its little extras in that don't really cost the company much extra at all, but you're compelled to buy it, and maybe multiple copies of the same thing if you want those voting tickets in order to see your idol advance in her career, which comes very personal to you because you've got to know her when she was very young and just starting out. Now, with these CD purchases, you get that ticket, as I mentioned. Now, yearly they have a contest to see who is popular. Now, these popularity contests is kind of a friendly way to gauge how does your fan base like you. Now, those are based off the individual CD sales. You can buy a CD of that particular idol group and then write the name of the person you like the best from that group and mail in, and you see your impact on that particular idol's career. Here in Japan, we've showed a noticed increase in the CD sales of the particular idol groups while all other CD sales have drastically reduced. Why is that? I think it's the personal developments you have with these individual idols when they first start their career, and you go and meet these people at shake hands, take pictures, learn about them and what they're like. And then throughout your career you follow them. Now they have strict guidelines they need to adhere to, whether how they behave, what they do. And if they get out of line, they are kicked out of the group, which I think is very healthy for that. Because how many times in America we have artists that kind of go crazy with the fame and fortune that they found, and they become not the best, if not horrible, role models for a lot of kids to follow. Thing that the Japanese industry has done is they found a way to capitalize on the beginning of the idol's career. Now, when you're very young and you're just starting out, you're not the best singer, you're not the best dancer, but they've packaged you in a way where you're still getting known, getting out there, and you become easy to actually make money when you're very beginning. If you're good singing, you still might not be the best dancer, and you're still making money for the company in these early stages of development, which I think is the most important thing any producing company can do in order to maintain and make money in a singing career. Even though the Japanese idol community seem to be ridiculed for their dancing skills and their lyrical skills, have seemed very basic to professional dancers. But you're looking a lot of the times at the beginning of their career. All the professional dancers, if we looked at them in the beginning, they'd be ridiculed too. But we get to see them at the beginning and throughout their entire career if they make it to larger groups and more popular, at top of the pyramid, if you will. A lot of their videos, which I will show you here, in AKB formula, has a lot of fun, easy dance steps that anybody can follow, and allows for a very memorable and experience that you can take home and practice yourself. And that's how they build more and more people. Say, this isn't too bad. It's kind of easy. Maybe I can do this. And you attract more and more talent. Those few people that are really good then attract more people. They get their following and so on. And it makes a huge network. And they make lots of money doing it. That, I think, is the best business model for the Japanese idol system. Another interesting note in the Japan idol scene, almost 80% of the new idols that are up and coming are labeled as local idols. So each of one of the 47 prefectures in here in Japan have their own idol groups that help to bring business and commerce into their particular areas. So they put on concerts and all kinds of different events for their local areas. Now, this is easily segueing back. This 80% of idols that are local idols, if you will, bring commerce and business back into the particular smaller prefectures they're associated with. This is why I was looking at the Suita prefecture. The Suita, the Takahama Shrine, is having their own idol festival to hope to encourage as many people as possible to come see the magnificent little town that is downtown Suita. I like downtown Suita. I always buy my groceries down there. It's the cheapest place around, and they have a lot of good quality food. Now, I've got to know a lot of the local small businesses. I hope to show many of those small businesses to you in the future.